Have you ever had an argument that technically ended, but somehow it felt like it never actually had finished? Maybe it was one where you had apologized, or you both had calmed down, or maybe even agreed to move on, and yet there was something that still felt different. Maybe the room felt quieter, or conversations became shorter, affection may have been awkward. And it wasn't because there was another fight, it was simply distance. One of the biggest myths about healthy relationships is that successful couples don't fight very often. But I can tell you that after years of working with couples, that simply isn't true. Healthy couples disagree. Healthy couples misunderstand each other. They sometimes say things that they wish they could take back. The difference isn't that they avoid conflict. The difference is that they know how to repair. So today, I want to talk to you about why repair, not perfection, not avoidance, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term relationship health. And I want to show you, or I want to share with you, a few insights from relationship science. One of the first things I share with couples is this idea, and that is that conflict itself isn't usually what damages relationships. Unrepaired disconnection is. And that's an important distinction. So I want you to imagine accidentally cutting your finger while cooking. The cut matters, but what happens afterwards matters even more. Do you clean it? Do you protect it? Do you allow it to heal? And relationships work in the same way. The rupture isn't always what determines the future. Repair often does. This perspective can be incredibly freeing because suddenly the goal isn't we can never hurt each other. The goal becomes when we do hurt each other, can we find our way back? Here's something I find fascinating. Researchers studying couples noticed something unexpected. The happiest couples weren't necessarily the ones with fewer disagreements. They were the ones who made small repair attempts early in conflict. So sometimes it wasn't a brilliant apology, it was something simple like a gentle smile, a touch on the arm, or a little humor. Those small moments often changed the entire emotional direction of the conversation. Why? Well, it's because they weren't trying to solve the problem first. They were trying to protect the relationship first. And that's very different. So many of us were taught to argue like attorneys, right? To present our evidence, to defend our position, to win the case. But relationships aren't courtrooms. They're emotional ecosystems. People rarely become more open because they've been logically defeated. They become more open when they feel emotionally safe. Here's another idea that I completely changed how I understand relationships. Your partner's nervous system is listening before their thinking brain is. So before they process your words, their brain is already asking questions like, am I safe? Or am I respected? And are we okay? And what's fascinating is that your nervous system answers those questions using information that you may not even realize you're communicating. It could be the way that you're communicating in your facial expression, your pacing, whether you move closer or farther away, whether your eyes soften or harden. I've seen couples say exactly the same sentence with completely different outcomes. So imagine someone says, we need to talk. So one version is very rushed, it's tense, it's looking at a phone while walking away. And another version is, can we talk? Sitting beside a partner, making gentle eye contact, speaking calmly, same words, completely different nervous system experience. One feels threatening, the other feels inviting. That doesn't mean that we have to perform when we're communicating. It simply means or reminds us that connection is communicated through much more than language. Let me show you what I mean through a short demonstration. I want you to picture a husband who forgets an anniversary dinner reservation, and his wife says, I can't believe you forgot. And so this husband's response is, I said I was sorry. What else do you want from me? Well, in that scenario, you can almost imagine what happens next because the conversation becomes about defending. Now listen to the next response. The husband says, I can understand that you're hurt. If the roles were reversed, I probably would feel disappointed too. Can you tell me more about what this brought up for you? So in this scenario, the husband didn't fix the problem. He still forgot the reservation, but he communicated something incredibly important here. And what he communicated in this second demonstration is, I want to understand your experience. And that's what I mean by repair. Repair isn't agreement. Repair is simply choosing connection before correction. Here's something I don't think gets talked about enough. Repair doesn't only happen after conflict. Healthy couples repair all week long. Every smile across the kitchen, every drive safely, every how did your meeting go, every hug before work, and every genuine thank you. Those moments become deposits into what some relationship researchers describe as the emotional climate or the friendship of the relationship. And here's why that matters. When the overall relationship feels emotionally warm, repair attempts are much more likely to be received. So think about that for a moment. Sometimes the apology isn't failing because it's the wrong apology. Sometimes it's failing because the relationship has been emotionally undernourished for weeks. So repair after conflict becomes much easier when connection existed before the conflict. And that's why I encourage couples not only to learn conflict skills, but to learn friendship skills, to learn curiosity, to learn appreciation, playfulness, because those moments aren't separate from relationship health. They really create the environment where repair can actually work. This week, I'm going to encourage you to do 3 things. First, catch yourself sooner. Don't wait until you're both emotionally exhausted. Try to repair early. The second is replace explanations with curiosity. So instead of saying something like, that's not what I meant, try saying, help me understand what that was like for you. And then the third application is to practice is increase ordinary moments of connection. So send the encouraging text, offer genuine appreciation, look up when they walk into the room. These moments may seem small, but they really are not. They're quietly teaching the person's nervous system that this relationship is a safe place. If you're watching this and thinking that you have had some difficult conversations lately with your partner, then I want to encourage you, because conflict doesn't automatically predict the future of a relationship. It's the willingness to repair often that tells us way more. Healthy relationships aren't built because 2 people stop disappointing each other. They're built because 2 imperfect people keep choosing to move forward and toward each other after disappointment. At Anchor of Hope Counseling and Neurofeedback, that's what we believe healing often looks like. So it's not perfection, it's courageous repair. And if this conversation was helpful, then I'd love for you to subscribe and share it with someone who may need a little hope today. And remember this, healing rarely begins with getting everything right. More often, it begins with small steps back toward connection.